Fair enough. Shall we move on from that to a film that is not even remotely related to Lego Movie 2, so I shan't even attempt to make a linking device in Styx.
Yes.
You could go from bricks to sticks, I suppose. That would have been an easy one, but that's too obvious for me. Anyway, yeah, Styx.
Why is there not a Lego film set in London called Brixton?
You'd think there would be, wouldn't there?
Yeah, they're missing an opportunity there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Susanna Vols-Rike is a doctor in Germany. We first encounter her as part of a huge team of personnel from multiple emergency services responding to a car crash, where she directs the efforts of this expansive and expensive collection of resources to rescue a single person who has endangered their own life through their own recklessness. After the success and the demonstration of her ability and cool head, we meet Rike again in Gibraltar as she stalks her 12-metre sailing yacht with provisions for her solo voyage to Ascension Island in the South Atlantic. Prepared and relaxed, Rike begins her journey, and the first third of Styx passes in serenity and tranquility. The sailor's routine and the emptiness of the ocean producing an almost hypnotic and meditative state. So unexpected contact with another vessel, and the first speech in almost half an hour brings a warning of bad weather, and Rike will soon face a storm, both literally and metaphorically. Once the storm is past, and Rike groggily comes to, she spots a vessel a few hundred metres from her. It is an ancient fishing boat, adrift and overloaded with a desperate human cargo. As she approaches, some of those aboard begin to throw themselves overboard, many immediately drowning. Rike enters the water in order to save one swimmer who managed to get close to her yacht. Kingsley, Gideon Wikes Odore, a 14-year-old boy suffering from undernutrition, exhaustion, dehydration, irregular heartbeat and chemical burns. Following the orders of the Coast Guard, she distances herself from the boat and treats Kingsley while awaiting the conspicuously absent rescue. As time passes, Rika's conscience and the now awake Kingsley compel her to act. Austrian director Wolfgang Fischer and his co-writer Ika Kunzel wanted to comment on the migrant crisis and chose to do so with this efficient, intelligent and unsentimental moral thriller. Fischer and Kunzel keep their politics, whatever they might be, out of the film. You might think you know them, but towards the end you'll realise you're wrong, as a few crucial details show it to be more neutral in tone than you might expect. Another potential stumbling block, and one it would be very easy for many filmmakers to trip over, is Rika being seen as the white saviour. But that's not the character at all. Indeed, as well as being a symbol of society, she is also, in many ways, a victim. Thoughtful and thought-provoking, Styx, named, and well named, after the river from Greek mythology that separates the worlds of the living from the dead, is a morality tale, distinct from politics and free from sermonising. Shot entirely practically, and with a multiple-week shoot on open water, though off the coast of Malta rather than in Eastern Atlantic, everything is viewed from Rika's perspective, and we see and hear only what she does. As such, the occupants of the distressed vessel are for much of the time only dim silhouettes and cacophonous howling until action brings them into focus. But this use of allegory, and others, like the hulking vastness of a commercial container ship next to Rika's yacht, is used sparingly and effectively. This dedication to realism is very much to the film's favour, adding more than a simple veneer of veracity to the action. The standout moment in this regard is the real-time sequence of Rika trying to bring the exhausted and almost unconscious Kingsley on board her yacht. Though there may be some, I cannot currently recall another film in which the term dead weight was so understandable or so convincingly portrayed. The exertion and struggle of Wolf to move her young co-star is real, and so, therefore, is her characters. If I have any complaints, it's that it's perhaps in need of a little more time to draw out attention. But as for the filmmaking, I have few, and for the acting, none. Susanna Wolf is superb as Rike, displaying expertly the quandaries raging within her mind in the face of an impossible situation, and almost entirely without dialogue. Very much recommended.
Yes, when you mentioned it, this sounded interesting, but it also sounded like I need a bit more concentration and attention than I was able to give it this podcast, so I will certainly look to catch up with this one.
Yeah, I strongly suggest you do. When I heard about this, I was immediately intrigued, and I thought that's quite interesting. And I've seen some other art based on the migrant crisis, particularly so in a photographic exhibition in France. I saw a lot of photographic work on the migrant crisis, and so I was quite intrigued to see a film take it on as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a subject that really needs to be examined more. So
yeah, absolutely. It's quite underrepresented, actually, it seems, for it being such a big thing.
Yeah.
Which I assume still goes on, but it's one of those things that seems to have phased out of the news cycle somewhat.
Yeah, so it's one of these things that it just keeps happening, and so it's not news anymore. It's now just a fact of life, yeah.
And so I was intrigued by, having heard about the shoot, that it was all practical and shot with like 40-person crew or something, like just on the side of this boat that looks like there's one person. It's really effective for that. And as I said, just to see someone in real time struggling with an actual human body, and you understand quite how difficult that is.
Yeah.
Which you don't often see in films. People will be able to lift bodies like they're Arnie.
Yeah,
quite a lot of the time. So that's quite nice. But just to see a film like this with so little dialogue, is the conceit of it, according to the director, is almost that it's to be a silent film, because there's a kind of very perfunctory dialogue at the beginning where she's saying, right, what's the patient's blood pressure? We need to do this to get out of the car, etc.
Yeah. Then
a few brief calls to the Coast Guard, but again, it's very much about relaying information for the most part. So it's not like dialogue in the way that like people having a conversation or anything.
Yeah.
And then a little bit between her and Kingsley, and that's almost it. There is nothing else really. So it's all just played with action and the expressions on her face and Kingsley's face, and it's fantastic.
Yeah. No, we'll give this a go, and then I'll take a track at updating the Wikipedia page, which is the most perfunctory thing I've seen. Given Wikipedia's normal home of the needlessly detailed recaps, this is basically the extent of what it says about Styx. It's a 2018 German-Austrian drama film directed by Wolfgang Fischer. It was screened in the panorama section at the 68th Berlin International Film Festival, and that's it.
Yeah, that's all you get.
needs maybe a little more detail there. You know what I mean?
There's an article from some film prize called the Lux Prize or something like that, where there's an actual interview with the director and the co-writer, which is probably worth reading too. It's a very highly recommended film. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah.